and welcome to the Franchise Life. I am your host, Stacy Shannon. Today, we have a very exciting brand with us. And I do say that on occasion. So I that's not just a standard opener for me, but this is a brand that is unlike any other franchise brand in the industry. And the name of the brand is Resting Rainbow Pet Memorials and Creation. And with us today, we have Jamie Lavigne, who is the Vice President of Franchise Development for the brand. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate you having me. And just to clarify, it's Resting Rainbow Pet Memorials and Cremation. I think you said creation. I like that too, but it is cremation. Just to clarify, we're not we do have a service that offers cloning though, so that is kind of creating.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for clarifying that for me. That's the beauty of doing these podcasts. We are human beings, so we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah,
But oh my gosh, cloning. Well, that's a whole discussion we need to get into
that's a
down the
whole
road.
nother
Yeah.
topic. See, it's a happy accident. Like what?
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Jamie. So, Resting Rainbow, it is a brand that has one corporate location today and does not have any franchise locations as of yet. I know you have significant interest in the brand, but they did just start franchising here in 2023. So, this is exactly where every franchise brand that has grown to date has started. So it's securing that first franchisee, and that's the hardest one to get. After that, we'll just see this brand explode. But take us into what Resting Rainbow is and how it came about.
Yeah. So 70% of households have pets, as we all know, and that's going to keep growing. And unfortunately, it's inevitable. All pets are going to pass away, and we have to say goodbye in a professional and dignified manner, right? So it is pet cremation, and it's sad. And that's going to be probably the biggest pushback we will get from candidates, like, oh, I don't know if I can be in a sad business, but it happens, and it's with all animals, right? A lot of the pet care franchises out there are focusing on just dogs or cats. This is People are cremating all most of their pets: dogs, cats, rabbits, ferrets, gerbils,
Wow.
and birds, and even iguanas. You'd be shocked. So the business is working with the public and the community to give them a service to say goodbye to their animals where they don't have to work directly with the veterinarians. Now, we still are going to do a ton of that business, but we want to create a business to consumer opportunity that these people can come to directly to us, which will cost them a lot less money, right? So it's a multi-revenue stream model. It's going to do private pet cremation, which is really important to emphasize the word private. There's some cremation companies out there that mom and pop, which is what your competition is mom and pop, that will do community cremation. So when you get your pet cremations back, ashes, it's not just your animal, right? So we're focused on private pet cremation. And we're, award offering rush services. It's typically takes 7 to 10 business days for a pet to be processed, but clients can get same day or next day service, but they pay extra for that. Clients can actually watch the process happen, which I know for most people are like, I wouldn't do that. But believe it or not, people want that for closure. And of course, we charge for that. People have pet funerals in our corporate location, and we charge $1,500 for a pet funeral, for 2 to 3 hours of time in the space. It's nuts. And then of course there's the memorial urns and jewelry and so forth that go on from there. And then pet pickup, um, DNA testing, autopsy and cloning, as we just mentioned. But we need to find those early adopters that can see the giant fragmented industry and the opportunity, and looks at that those numbers and really sees like, holy cow, here's an opportunity. And our first 10 franchisees, just like any brand new emerging franchisor, they're our puppies. We are going to give them so much time and attention, and it's going to be imperative for them to succeed, for our franchise to succeed. And so we're going to be focusing drastically on our first 10 franchisees more than we ever will, because of that success that's needed.
Yeah. So this is a topic that is very near and dear to many people's hearts. I mean, as you mentioned today, over 70% of households have a pet. And we had a dog, Shady, for 10 years. He was an adopted dog. We got him at 4 years of age. And I will tell you that when we had to put him down, due to his failing health and so forth, that was one of the hardest decisions that we've ever gone through, because as human beings, we don't have, I mean, that's just not a decision that we're used to making, right? Is to end a life. It's just not a natural decision. So, and our pets become like humans in our
Family.
house. They do.
Yeah,
They are their
absolutely.
family. And now I have a mini golden doodle, Miles, who now that my kids are grown, they're out of the house. Miles has been elevated. It's like Miles, then my
Your
husband
husband.
and my kids. And they all know that. So, but
Exactly.
um, you know, it and when we had to put him down and take him to a veterinarian, it was cold. It was, I mean, they did the best they could by giving us a blanket, giving us time. But it's not like being in the comfort of your own home where, all those memories are and where your dog's going to be the most comfortable or your pet. So I can truly see so much value and comfort that is brought to families. And I know,
Yeah.
Jamie, you mentioned that, even though it's a sad business kind of, another broker friend of mine yesterday shared a situation where their dog passed away after Christmas this past year, and they actually had someone come to their house.
Mhm.
So very similar service of what Resting Rainbow offers. And she said it was one of the best experiences of her life.
Yep.
And ironically, it was a veterinarian who came and owns the business. And she said that this is so much more rewarding because she's going into homes where pets have been loved. And
Mhm.
so,
And that's one of the service Resting Rainbows offers, believe it or not. I didn't mention that when I was listing off the other things, but we will offer home euthanasia. And that's a huge upside. Our franchisees will partner with a veterinarian, just like that doctor you were just referencing. And it's a package deal. The cost will be the cost of the vet coming to your home and doing the euthanasia and the pet pickup, as well as the cremation. And so it's a package deal. Veterinarians, people don't realize, but the veterinarians aren't the ones doing the cremation. They're using companies like ours to do that, because very few veterinarians have their own cremator, to be able to do that. So they're just brokering and partnering with a company like ours. But when you create those relationships and you create that better experience, that's what it is. Doing something better for people. If you had a good experience, let's keep it going for other people. If you had a bad experience, let's do better for everybody else, right? I mean, I think it's the it's a similar thing of people getting into home care. They had a great experience or they had a bad experience.
Or
And, the people that I think are going to be interested in Resting Rainbow have big empathetic hearts
Mhm.
and, very passionate, and we'll see that side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, with this type of business, who are you marketing to? I mean, when a franchise owner comes on, one of the benefits of the franchise model, of course, is all of the support from the corporate location, which includes marketing. So, who are you marketing to? Because, listening to you talk, this is very much it's a business to consumer, but it also with the various services can be a business to business
It's
type.
actually more, it's currently it's 75% B2B in our corporate location and 25% B2C. We want to flip that switch and be more B2C, obviously, because the profit margins are higher. But the business to business is first and foremost veterinarians. So our franchisees are going to partner with as many veterinarians as possible. And some of the early pushback I've gotten from for the first set of candidates is, but well, how are you going to compete when they're probably already doing business with another pet cremator? um, Easy. We pay them more. And that's what we'll see, what a candidate will see in my item 19. The second half of last year, we changed how much we paid the veterinarians. And by doing so, it almost doubled, if not more than doubled, the number of cases, which is a case is a pet, than we had before because we start paying them more. But what it also did is it increased our business to consumer because when the pet owner receives the ashes, it's all packaged with our name. And they started getting curious and started inquiring, going to the website and so forth. And then word of mouth happened. So by paying the vets more, we got more business from them, but we also got more business from the business consumer. So now moving forward, one of the other pieces we are going to create with business to business is actually creating more referral programs with other pet care professionals. So people that are in the dog boarding, retail, training, grooming, dog walking, all of those other pet professionals, we want to create relationships with in a referral program. We're going to create national accounts, but before we create those national accounts, we want our franchisees to create those relationships. Our mapping program that I've designed is going to show us where all the veterinarians are and all of those types of businesses are. So when they get their territory, we're going to be like, here's all these businesses, right? So they'll create those relationships. But the bigger opportunity, obviously, is the business to consumer because very few people know that they can go directly to a cremating company like this because they don't know. There's no educational awareness of it. So the goal here is to create marketing with Facebook ads and getting into the Facebook pet groups, which is huge.
Mhm.
Getting into educational blogging and so forth, Google AdWords, pay per click, the normal stuff. But the bigger picture is getting involved in the community, having our franchisees partner with these other pet care professionals to do events. If there's a farmer's market, get a pop-up tent and go shake some hands and pet some dogs, right? Partner with rescues or SPCAs. If a dog passes at a rescue or SPCA, offer to cremate that dog for free, right? Sponsor some events, etc. And then in some cases, it's different per state, but even connect with your your law enforcement. And you're probably like, why would I do that? Well, the law enforcement has to collect drugs, right? Those drugs have to be they have to burn them. Who's better to burn those drugs than you, right? Now there may be some certification for that and so forth depending on what state you're in, but how better to get a partner with your community than the law enforcement, right? So those are parts of the opportunity for the business to consumer side. But currently our item 19 shows 75% of our business is coming from the veterinarians, 25% with business to consumer, and we're at a 35.8% EBITDA. When we increase, put more, maybe 50-50 or hopefully 75-25,
Yeah,
sky's the limit.
it's kinda incredible. I had not even thought about that, as far as all the different. I mean, I know there's a lot of different revenue streams, but when you mentioned the law enforcement and the different ways that uh, cremator, whatever the proper name is,
Cremator, incinerator, you know.
could be used. I mean, that just opens up a whole nother world of opportunity there. Okay, sticking with the model, this clearly is a brick and mortar. We've talked about services for pets. I mean, you have the incinerator. What does a Resting Rainbow location look like? Can you just kind of walk us through what that build out would be comprised of?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And ultimately, it's the hardest part is finding a light industrial space that is EPA like certified for a cremator or incinerator, basically a large furnace, right? Good news is there's no smell, there's no smoke, by the way. So to get rid of any concerns there, but there is a air license, EPA, right? So you have to find a light industrial space that allows that. Again, going back to the mapping program, I have been able to create a thing that shows us where all the light industrial is, as well as where other cremation businesses are. So if there exists a cremation business there, we know that we can be there, right? So that's the hardest part is light industrial. It also can be on agricultural land, actually. So when we get candidates out of Idaho and Pennsylvania and those types of places that have agricultural land, that's automatically EPA available. So if they want to build a metal building, that type of thing. But otherwise, light industrial, there's Class A and Class B. You need 2,000 to 3,500 square feet. It has to be zoned, for the cremator and go through the EPA licensing. They need a back space, which is more like industrial for the actual cremator. They need a small office space. They need a memorial space to do the pet funerals and to have the urns. And they need a processing part of the business, which is for things like creating the mementos, like the paw prints and those types of things. So the Class A is nicer, right? Higher end light industrial, but also means higher rent. And
Mhm.
then there's Class B, which is more of the hood or the ghetto area. It's low rent. And honestly, our corporate location is in a Class B location because in that county, Miami-Dade County of Florida, that's the only place they'll allow it. But our rent's really, really low. It's like, I think like $2,000 a month or something like that. And when I visited, I was like, ooh. And, one of the founders after a few days, I was like, what do you think, Jamie? I'm like, I gotta say, the only thing I can say negative is this place is sketch looking coming in. When you get in the door, it's great. It's
Sure.
like, did I just enter a new world here? But going in, and I was like, I don't know. This feels like it would cause me a problem. He goes, but Jamie, have you seen, do you count how many people have been dropping off their pets and picking up their remains and how the phone's been ringing off the hook? I'm like, yeah. He goes, it's not stopping anybody from doing business with us. And it's not. Right. And that was just like head trash in my head. Like, oh, I thought it would have to be pretty. And it doesn't have to be, but it can be if a franchisee would prefer that. But what's really cool as well, Stacy, is like the multi-unit model. I compare it to Dunkin' Donuts model, right? So Dunkin' Donuts franchisees, they buy a production center and then multiple retail fronts, right?
Mhm.
The one production center makes all the donuts and they just deliver the donuts. With this model, if they went with, say, 3 units, they'd only need one incinerator and they can just get cold storage for the other smaller retail units in a nicer area for people to drop off pets, and they put the pets in the cold storage until somebody can come pick it up. And in that one spot where they have an incinerator, instead of starting with a 2-chamber cremator, they could go with a 4, 6, or 8-chamber cremator and just have all the production at that one site and still have pet drop off at all three. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, kind of like a spoken wheel type of model. Yeah, when you initially were talking through the warehouse space for the incinerator and so forth that would be required, initially I'm thinking, okay, why wouldn't somebody just have the warehouse space in that sketchy Class B type of environment and then have
A
a
nicer
store,
space.
yeah, a nicer space for
And they
the
could absolutely
storefront
do
per
that.
se. So it
Yep.
sounds like there's a lot of flexibility depending on the individual and how they want to present themselves to the
And
community.
to the market, right? Some markets are higher income and are going to need something a little bit upper class for the drop off areas and stuff like that. And some are not. But a lot of our business is through pet pickup. And people are calling and they don't want to put their deceased animal in the car to bring down to you, even if it was a classy joint, right? They just don't want their deceased pet. So a good portion of our business is pet pickup, where we will go pick up the pet and we charge in $75+ for that. But what's unique about it is it's not just somebody. I was talking to a consultant earlier today who said, I have this awful memory of when our dog died as a kid. This guy came in with a duffel bag and put our dog in and walked off. And I
Oh,
was like,
oh,
oh my gosh, that's horrendous. So what we do with the pet pickup is there's a Ford Transit van with a gurney like you would see in an ambulance, and it has a casket and nice blankets. They go into the home with the gurney and the casket, set the pet in the casket, and they allow the family to say goodbye. And then they put the pet in the transit and leave, right? So so the drop off part is important. But there's a lot of business that's pickup too. But bottom line is there is absolutely flexibility. So if somebody doesn't want that class B area and they think it's going to affect their business, then they can do a smaller, retail. But that just means more rent
right.
and it's going to cut into their bottom dollar. So we're not going to encourage that, but we're not going to say no either. We have proof in the pudding that it doesn't affect the business.
Yeah, and I love that. Okay, let's talk. We've talked about all these different revenue streams. We've talked about the pickup. We've talked about delivery. So, what does the staffing model look like for a single location?
With a staffing model, we only require 3 unskilled people to start. And at the most, if a franchisee chooses to have production done 24/7, at the most they'll probably see about 6 people, give or take, right? Depending on if they're part-time and full-time. But the 3 major people is the front of house or manager. That person needs to be very organized, empathetic, and maybe have a little sales skills because they're the ones that are greeting people that come in to pick up ashes and drop off their deceased pet. And they have to have empathy because they're going to be crying. And they have to walk them through the process of what's going to happen, explain it to them, and upsell a little bit on urns and jewelry, etc. Right? That person also is going to help manage the drivers and the that do pickup and transport, as well as manage the technician. But their other job is to make sure that each case is going through the process properly. And we have an amazing technology platform for that. The second person is the technician. Again, this is an unskilled laborer. We'll train them. They can easily be trained, and they're the ones that are processing the pet. So you do have to have somebody that's not squeamish, obviously, but they are going through the process of taking the pet all the way from start to finish. And then you have pickup drivers or transportation drivers. These people are usually the first two are W 2 or the owner, And the last one, the pickup drivers, is usually a 1099. The technician could, or the front of house could do pickup at first until needed. But otherwise, once you get the pickups happening frequently, because that you want to offer that 24/7 just in case a pet passes in the middle of the night, that's a 1099 person, and you just pay them, per pickup type of deal. So that's it. It's three unskilled laborers, and it just requires training, and they have to be empathetic and not squeamish. And so some people may think that's probably harder than you think. It's really not. You may kiss a couple of frogs because not everybody can handle it. But we even encourage people to consider hiring from Department of Corrections, which, yes, I know that sounds awful. Hire a criminal. Yeah, to be a technician, they're not going into clients' homes. They're taking care of the animals, right? They need a second chance, etc. American Disability Act, American Veteran Act. You can get up to a 30% payroll reduction for that. So that's one of the great things about this model. There is very low employees.
I love it. And I can't tell you how many times recently I've been hearing, I want a model that either has zero employees or low employees. So that's good to hear. So this does have a 24/7 aspect to it though for the removal, correct?
Yep, for the removal and production. So we don't require franchisees to run the production 24/7. They won't need to at first anyways, but they may choose to because it's a furnace. It can handle it. And by the way, I don't know if you plan on talking about the equipment, but that cremator can last 30 to 50 years if taken care of. So it's a piece of heavy equipment that once paid off is pure profit model, almost a pure profit model for you, right? Um, but yeah, it's the I forgot what I was just talking about. I just had a squirrel moment.
24/7.
24/7. Thank you. So yes, the production can be 24/7 if they want to, if they choose to. But the pet pickup you want to offer is 24/7. If you're doing pet pickup in the middle of the night, you're charging more for it. There's a premium
Sure.
to that. But people need their pet taken out of their home because if they have children in the house, it could be very traumatic for them, right? And so it's an important service to offer. So yes, there is a 24/7 component to it, but it's very easy to manage because you just have a broadcasting system with your technicians. I mean, your pickup drivers, excuse me. And you say, this is the pickup. And if you have more than one, so maybe you have several that are just part-timers because they're 1099 and they can say, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. Right. So yes.
Yeah, and what's nice about, I mean, that especially if you have multiple drivers on hand, there's flexibility and you're apt to not run into staffing problems in that respect.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about our ideal franchise owner. I know that we've mentioned empathy and a passion for animals, definitely. If it is an owner operator type situation, I heard you say some salesmanship skills, would be nice to have or required. So, what does our ideal franchise owner look like?
Yeah, and those sales skills are the sales of these memorials and stuff are really easy. It doesn't take much. So it's definitely nice to have, but it kind of comes naturally because people want to memorialize their pets in the most beautiful way possible. And in a lot of cases, not all, but money's not an object,
Right.
right? So but otherwise, our ideal candidate is definitely somebody that loves animals and loves community. Because our goal, big, hairy, audacious goal is to go after as much consumer business as possible. They've got to be willing to get into that community and create relationships, right? So they have to have that passion for animals and passion for community. Otherwise, it's really a not it's not rocket science. This is something that business is going to come very naturally because there's so many pets out there that are passing naturally, right? So I love looking at other pet franchisees for this as an add-on model. I actually already have somebody that I helped award another pet care franchise to that has reached out, is interested. So I think it makes a ton of sense. Going looking at veterinarians, I think makes a ton of sense. But I love engineers and IT people for this because there's two technology platforms that I think that they will geek out about, especially from an absentee model perspective. Having an absentee model with two sets of technology that they can log into at any time to see what's going on with their business, with their furnace, their cremator, as well as with the process of and how long it's taking, et cetera, for each step of the process is awesome. Um, but we're very open minded. We don't know what we don't know yet when it comes to these franchisees, right? But business acumen obviously is an important piece of it. They've got to be able to, if they're absentee or semi absentee, manage their staff, manage their manager who manages the staff, manage their profit and loss, manage their trust and respect in reputation in the community. Um, and it's, yeah, otherwise it's pretty easy. I hate using that word. It's not easy. It's a simple model, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do like the simplicity, but even more importantly, I like the relatableness of it.
Mhm.
I mean, going back to how we opened this up, over 70% of households own a pet. And
Mhm.
that just continues to grow. So,
Mhm.
sharing a concept like this when you are out in the community, and I mean, people can relate to it. I mean, many of us, I know you are an avid pet lover. Many
Yes,
of
I
us,
have 4 dogs and a rabbit currently.
many of us have shared, stories to share and have unfortunately lost a pet in the past. And we also know that people spend a ton of money on their pets. So
Mhm.
this is just an extension. And I love how you shared, and I honestly hadn't even given this thought, but for individuals that own a pet sitting or pet boarding business, or for veterinarians, or really anybody that owns a pet business, this is just a great extension and opportunity for diversification. So,
Yeah, exactly. Especially if they've already created the trust and respect in the community with their dog training business, with their retail business, whatever the case may be, they people already trust them. So now let us take care of your pet in the aftercare when you're saying goodbye. I mean, it
absolutely.
seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. All right. So, on a last note, let's touch on the investment level. So,
Yes.
what does the total investment level look like for a single location with Resting Rainbow?
Sure. So I'm just going to round up to the nearest
Sure.
$1,000 to make it easy. But it's 198,000 upwards to 459,000. That's a big gap. The major reason for the big gap is two major things. Either A, if they finance their equipment, which is awesome because this is a very equipment heavy asset based business. There's great options for financing. So the other part is the cold storage. They can either start with two chest freezers, which is way cheaper than going with a walk-in cold storage. So that those are the two major reasons for the significant difference between the low and the high side. So it's high, but again, it is really great to get financing for because it's asset based. But the other big thing is the depreciation of the equipment because it's heavy equipment. Check with your CPA. There's a lot of depreciation tax write-offs. So for other business owners that do have, they're trying to diversify their portfolio, but something that they can do more tax write-offs in, boom, here we go.
I love it. And then I know that we have to be careful about performance claims. But you did mention that this has an extensive item 19. So for individuals listening that are not familiar with the terminology item 19, that is a section of a franchise disclosure document where it every franchise brand has the opportunity to share financial information. And in this case, it's based on the corporate locations. And can you just give us some highlights of what that 8-page item 19 looks like?
Yeah, it's really significant, and it was another reason that got me super excited, because the margins are crazy. So, the item 19, it has data from Q1 slash Q2 of 22, Q3 slash Q4 of 22. So we have it broken out into two 6 months. And then we have Q1 and Q2 of 2023 in there. So the reason why we broke it out by every 6 months was because in 22, we changed the how much we paid the veterinarians. So we want to be able to show the difference of what it did to the average ticket, because people are going to look at like, whoa, well, the average ticket went down. Yes, because we gave the veterinarians more, but look at the number of cases. Number of cases doubled, right? And then look at our business consumer has increased drastically, right? So, but I think I mentioned it earlier, but for the first half of this year, for 2023, Q1 and Q2, we did a little over 387,000 in gross sales, and we have a 35.8% EBITDA. So that's a little over $138,000 in EBITDA just for the first 6 months. Now, here's the kicker, Stacy. That was with a one chamber cremator.
Okay.
Our franchisees start off with a two-chamber cremator at the minimum. So that means their opportunity, can't guarantee it obviously, but their opportunity is doubled for production because they have two chambers at a minimum versus just one chamber like our corporate location has.
Very impressive. I mean, those margins are just unbelievable. And this is certainly a business. I mean, when you look at attributes of a business model that, individuals are seeking, recession resistant, it's B2B, B2C, it's a need-based business, and it's a low employee-based business, and it's simplistic. I mean, this is not a fad. I mean, these services have been around for years and years and years. It's just now we are blessed to have a business such as Resting Rainbow that is now going to become a national brand through the franchising model. So, Jamie, thank you so, so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You are so well respected throughout the entire franchise community. So I know that this brand is going to grow just substantially, and I can't wait to bring some great clients your way.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that, your kind words. And when you reached out for me to be on the podcast, I was so excited. I called the founders. I was like, we're going to be on Stacy Shannon's podcast. And they're like, who's Stacy Shannon? I was like, she's awesome.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity to spread the message. The owners are excited. The founders are excited to grow the brand, and they're new to franchising, so they don't know what to expect. And I said, we're in education phase right now. We've got to educate the public and educate our consultants and stuff, so that they understand it and they can start presenting it. So it's exciting, and I'm excited for the future, and I can't wait to see you at conference, Stacy, in
Yeah,
October.
absolutely. Well, for anybody that is interested in learning more about Resting Rainbow Pet Memorial and cremation, not creation, but cremation, I would love to share more. You can reach out to me at Stacy at fusionfranchising.com. Thank you and have a great day.